Welcome back, everyone, to the Crimson Tide Sports Network and to this edition of Quarantine Q&A. I'm Roger Hoover, and we're certainly glad you're with us on this Wednesday afternoon for another one of our Quarantine Q&A interviews, and this one, as always, presented by Alabama One Credit Union. They've been voted Tuscaloosa's best credit union and best mortgage lender. Alabama One offers low-rate auto, mortgage, and business loans, plus protection for it all with Alabama One Insurance. You can visit any of their 9 local branches. You can also check them out online at alabama1.org. Alabama One, a proud supporter of Crimson Tide Athletics, and today we're joined by one of the best supporters of Crimson Tide Athletics, especially men's basketball, the capstone, Luke Ratliff, Fluffopotamus on Twitter. Everybody knows him, everybody loves him, the president of Crimson Chaos. Luke, roll tide, man. How's everything going?
Roll tide, Roger. How are you doing? Everything's all right over here for us. How about yourself?
It's going all right, and it's 2:30. We're going on a social media platform live. I almost expect Alabama fans watching this are expecting, a fill-in-the-blank game or some big announcement from you. But what's been going on?
You said it right then. Over quarantine, a whole bunch of nothing up until yesterday. Was it yesterday? I think it was. No, it was Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Monday. Well, I got the privilege to go on Instagram Live. The basketball coaching staff trusted me with some valuable information, and I got to reveal who Alabama would play the first game of the season on Instagram Live Monday. And they're playing Jacksonville State, and we had a good time on there. We had about 300 people on there. The early reports were 8.4 million, but that turned out to be not true. But we all had a good time. But other than that, quarantine's been quarantine,
Yeah, and you're a student of the University of Alabama, so when the quarantine hit and where everything kind of shut down in mid-March, how did that change things for you, first of all, from a school perspective?
Well, from a school's perspective, I was planning on, because I didn't understand, like a lot of people in the school, obviously, in the early part of it, I didn't understand the full scope of what was happening and how serious this coronavirus pandemic would get. And they told us when we left school that, prepare to come back in 2 weeks or so, and then go to online class or something like that. I can't remember, but give it a little bit more time over spring break. But the real thing that happened was I was actually in Nashville for the SEC tournament. I saw you there.
That's
you were
right.
the last person in Nashville. You and Chris Stewart and Brian Passing and Tom Stipe. And I left shortly after the SEC tournament was canceled. I went straight home from there to North Carolina. I had about 2 weeks worth of clothes with me. And shortly after I got home, they canceled the whole thing. So I had to come back and get everything else. But, it's strange. It's just, it's something, you don't prepare for. You don't know how to act when it happens.
Yeah, it certainly has been different, and I imagine just even finishing up your schoolwork, and then you've been taking some classes this summer, just all of it is learning how to navigate what we're calling, I guess, the new normal. I know a lot of people don't like that phrase, but for you, has it just been like a ton of Zoom meetings with professors, your fellow classmates? What's kind of been the process like there?
You said it right there, just tons of, group FaceTimes, Zoom meetings, Zoom lectures. Especially since I'm taking classes over the summer, and all my classes over the summer have just been, one thing after the other, and just it's a lot more stressful. I think it is, to have everything and not be able, especially if you're in a group project, not be able to see or coordinate well with your group because everybody's scattered across the country. It's definitely tough. But we're working through it.
That's good to hear. And also, I imagine a lot of this is what's helped you have so much fun with the announcement that you got to make on Monday, announcing that Jacksonville State would be the home opener and the season opener for the Crimson Tide on November 10th. And kind of touched on it earlier, but again, how did that come about, you getting to make that announcement?
Well, I think it was last Thursday, Alabama men's basketball has been on Instagram, have been doing these Q&A sessions, half-hour Q&A sessions on their Instagrams about every week or so, and with each member of the coaching staff, and our director of basketball operations, Adam Baumullen's on there, and last Thursday, and I tuned in halfway through the broadcast, And immediately, right then, I tuned in just in time for them to say, "This coming Monday, we're going to let Luke Ratliff, we're going to let Fluff announce who the first game of the season is." And that's the first I'd heard of it. So the initial surprise, the initial shock was it was incredible. But uh, they gave me all weekend to prepare for it, try to prepare something. I just didn't want to send out a tweet, just a bland tweet, press release type deal. Says who they're playing. That's no fun. We've been cooped up in the house for 4 months. We need fun. So I decided to go on Instagram Live, play a little game, Wheel of Fortune style, have people in the chat guess letters of who the opponent was, and eventually we got to Jacksonville State. It was something to look forward to because we haven't had real sports news, especially pertaining to Alabama, since really March, and it was a much needed break from reality.
Of course, you're very popular on social media. You're very popular on Twitter. And, the guys like John Rothstein or other reporters, they always like to be the first to say, Norfolk State is going to play Old Dominion coming up on November 21st. And he's always the first to have it. You were the first to have Alabama against Jacksonville State. A lot of people gave you credit. Did you feel like everybody gave you the proper credit you deserved on Twitter?
Everyone except John Rothstein, my good buddy, John Rothstein. But I gave him fair warning all weekend. I was responding his tweets. I was tweeting at him. I was commenting under his Instagram post, telling him, hey Johnny, I got some news here, and I need you to credit me with it. But he just completely ignored the whole thing. So
he should know better.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, come on, man. Like you gotta. John Rothstein can report the season opener for the Maine Bears basketball team, but not the University of Alabama. Something's fishy.
Some certainly is. And of course, you've been able to do that because you're the president of Crimson Chaos. And if we can go just back for just a little bit, how did you grow up as an Alabama fan, and what kind of led you to come to Alabama for school?
Well, I'm here in my house in North Carolina now, and my neighbors that lived across the street from me were from Tuscaloosa, graduate university. And, obviously that had sort of an influence on me as a child, especially during football season. But basketball was a lot harder to keep up with because we just didn't get games here on television. And I remember we get about 3 games a year here in North Carolina. You got the Kentucky game, always on CBS, it seemed like. You got Alabama versus Auburn in Tuscaloosa. You didn't get the one in Auburn. And this was back when Raycom carried the SEC tournament. Early session before the ACC tournament took over all television up here. You'd get an SEC tournament game. And typically Alabama would play the noon or the 2:30 game. But other than that, up until the inception of the SEC network, I didn't see very much Alabama basketball. I remember having to go on ESPN.com after games and look up box scores and see what happened, But thank goodness for the SEC network, because I got to watch a lot of Alabama basketball, a lot of Alabama sports at least, and it only helped, evolve my fanhood for it and my fandom for it. And whenever I came to university, it just launched into the stratosphere.
And specifically with men's basketball, do you just love basketball more than any other sport? Why have you been so drawn to basketball?
Well, basketball it's interesting because it's SEC football, football in general, but SEC football, there's a certain pageantry about it, a certain, elegance about it, and it's a huge deal anyways, but as a SEC football game, there's 102,000 people in the stadium, right? One person, I can't have an impact on the game myself as a fan when there's 102,000 other people around me doing the same exact thing. I can't have an impact personally. There's a certain intimacy with basketball, unlike football, to where you can impact, you have a direct way of impacting the play on the floor and how things happen on the floor, because there's just simply it's a more intimate sport. And I've always loved that, and just how chaotic things can be with basketball, especially with, student crowds and all that. I've always been drawn to that and loved it.
And for you, as you started becoming involved in Crimson Chaos and really getting to know a lot of people in the students section, it seemed like kind of with you, there started to be others that kept joining you, and sometimes joining you on the road when you would follow and travel Alabama basketball on the road to a lot of faraway places. Just how have you seen it kind of grow to where we did see it eventually land last year?
Well, I remember, I think this was, I'm trying to think. This was not this season just happened, but the season before last, 2018-2019 season. I remember Alabama played, I want to say it was the game before Arizona, so I can't remember who they played right off the top of my head. But I remember there was maybe 500 students there, and there was no, sort of organization within the Crimson Chaos itself, and there was nobody trying to pull students in. And I took it upon myself, the people sitting around me as well. We really just tried as hard as we can to work with athletics marketing and try and build this up into what it is. And I think you said it earlier, the most rewarding part for me is, as a president of the student section, is when you go on the road, when you go to Oxford, Mississippi, or Nashville, Tennessee to play, whether it be in the SEC tournament or play Vanderbilt at Memorial Gym, when you go to Mississippi State, and you see the amount of students that travel to that game. Last year, at both Mississippi games, in Ole Miss and in Mississippi State, we had plenty. I mean, I'd probably say 50 students at each game travel together and buy tickets together and sit in the same spot and try to give us sort of an advantage on the road. And that's the most rewarding part. And that's how you can really measure the impact that you've had.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Just in my work with the radio crew, sometimes I'd see you on the road and be like, oh, are you going to be at this game? And then kind of midway through January, I stopped doing that. I'm just like, okay, we'll see you in Nashville for the Vandy game. We'll see you in Starkville coming up later on. You got to love being able to wear your Crimson colors on the road and kind of take over sometimes an opponent's arena.
Absolutely. It's probably the most rewarding thing in sports is to go, and this happens a lot with football too. I remember Alabama played Nashville. They played Vanderbilt, in Nashville 2 seasons ago, and the stadium was 60% Crimson Tide fans, and everybody except Alabama fans filtered out about halftime. There's no better feeling than that, especially at a basketball game when you can go this past year at Ole Miss. Alabama won by 25 points, I believe it was. And to be there and have the amount of students, especially among other fans there, cheering on the Crimson Tide, and to watch people leave their own arena, there's nothing like it in sports. It's incredible.
Let's give some shout-outs. Who are some people that are typically with you on the front row in the student section for a home game, and then who have been some of the road warriors with you?
Oh, man, so many. For the past 3.5 years, the person to my right, who's been right there the whole time, I'm not sure he's on here or he's listening on Facebook Live. He doesn't have a Twitter account. His name is Brayton Bauer. He's a student at the university. He's going to graduate this upcoming fall. But he's been there every step of the way, and just as chaotic and loud as I am, and he's had such a big hand in helping plan these things and plan how we go about things as a student section. He's been awesome. But in the athletics marketing, we've had, especially Greg Byrne, who's been great, wanting to see students grow and grow as an organization, the Crimson Chaos. But he's been great. Everybody with athletics marketing, Ryan Majersic, who's great, Payne Walker. These people, they're the ones that, sort of, we tell them what we like doing. They're the ones that get it done. They make it happen. And then just like 3-point foam fingers at basketball games. We tell them was that we like to see more 3-point foam fingers. And then, boom, there they are. It's up for us to put out. They're the ones who do the heavy lifting. And we, as students, are just the mouthpiece. And it's the thing you can see. As far as there's just so many people, as far as students and stuff. It's just hard to name them all. But it's easier to name and pinpoint people in the organization, people in the athletics department that look out for us and help us build and grow as an organization.
Do you realize how hard it is for fans to get to visit not only with Greg Byrne, but also the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey? I was doing the Alabama-Stanford game. I look over and there's just Fluff hanging out with the commissioner and the AD. That had to be a fun moment.
Well, I thought I saw Greg Byrne before the game. And, I always speak to Coach Byrne whenever I see him. And we shook hands and all that. But the student section for that game, I say student section, it was over Christmas break, and there were maybe 15 students there, which is understandable. But it was on the baseline. On the opposite side of the baseline was Coach Greg Byrne sitting there, and then beside him, I looked over and I said, "Oh, that's Commissioner Sankey." And I stopped Greg Byrne at halftime. I said, "Is that Commissioner Sankey over there?" He said, "Yeah. Would you like to meet him?" I said, "I'd love to meet him." And we went over. Sit and talk and all that. And he's a real great guy. Appreciated all the stuff that we were doing in the student section. That was cool. That was really cool.
A lot of enthusiasm around Alabama basketball last year for the start of the Nate Oates era, and you were a pretty vocal supporter before you even met any of the coaches. You knew obviously some of the players, but just how much fun was it to have interaction with the team last year, especially Coach Oates and his coaching staff?
They were awesome. There's no way around that. This coaching staff is something special in the way that they've, me personally, the way that they've welcomed me, into that or into what they do and stuff like that. It's just it feels like I don't know how to put it, but they've been so great. They've worked so well with us. They've been so receptive with us as an organization that. It's uncanny. It just, you don't get that with any regular old people, any regular old coaches or anything like that. You don't get this sort of level of camaraderie with them that you do with anybody else.
And tell us the story of the plaid jacket, because the last couple of years we had seen you in the Wimp Sanderson style plaid jacket, and then you decide to retire it. And then some members of Alabama's coaching staff helped make sure you still had your plaid on for Alabama games.
Yeah. So the 2018-19 season, we planned and coordinated a big throwback day, 80s throwback day. Alabama against, I believe it was Texas A&M, Alabama versus Texas A&M. And we did a big throwback day because we were honoring the 1989 SEC championship team that game. I think it was 1989. I think it was. Should have been. And I had this ugly, just no use in my closet, green and red plaid jacket. And I said, you know what? If there ever was a time, wear it now. So I wore it and got a lot of buzz from it, and I just kept wearing it. It was my own thing. But earlier this year, I had to retire it because after the Auburn game, was it the Auburn game? The Auburn game in Tuscaloosa, it had torn up under the sleeves from just general wear and tear, and I took it to someone. I took it to someone to do alterations on it. And they were going to take it up on the sleeves, but if they took up fabric, there wasn't none left to move or anything. I'd be walking around like this. So I said, well, there's no time like the present. So I just stashed it away, put it in the closet, and Coach Hodgson and Coach Petway reached out to me and said they wanted to get me a new one. I said, nah, no way. And they insisted on doing it. And Mike Adams, from Mike Adams Clothier, or whatever it is, I can't remember, but I don't mean to disrespect it like that, from Adams Clothiers in Madison, Alabama, I think it was, or Decatur one, came up. He fitted me in Coach Hodgson's office and told me he's going to do what he can to get the new jacket in before the end of the season. And lo and behold, last home game of the season, there it was. Big surprise to me. Even though I knew it was going to happen, just huge surprise, and it was awesome, just awesome for Coach Hodgson and Coach Petway to do that for me. And I can't repay him enough for doing it, because it's got my name sewn on the inside. I've never had a jacket like that before. I've never had any article of clothing that had my name on the inside of it. It's unique and it's uniquely me, and I really appreciate them doing that.
That's really cool. And you said earlier, in basketball, one person, especially one student or helping lead a student section, can really make a difference. And the opposing coaches can also notice that. But it seems like more often than not, you've had some pretty positive experiences when you have been able to talk to a lot of Alabama's rival coaches one-on-one.
I have. And, I always try to stay after the games, win or lose, because the opposing coaches have to walk across Coleman Coliseum right in front of the student section and right behind the media table to go to the post-game press conference. And I always try and stay and, shake hands and introduce myself with people. And, some coaches are more receptive than others. So, like, I know Ben Howland from Mississippi State will not even look my way. Will not even do it. I know that Eric Musselman, he's not very receptive of stuff like that. But some other coaches, like, especially, coaches like Quanzo Martin. Quanzo Martin came and spoke to us students before and after the Missouri game in Tuscaloosa this past season. Josh Pastner, we played Georgia Tech in the exhibition game, the charity exhibition. And Coach Josh Pastner came before the game and talked to me for probably 10 to 15 minutes and was real receptive. And Frank Martin, one of my old enemies from South Carolina, a long time ago, Frank Martin blocked me on Twitter for reasons unknown. And this past season, after Alabama beat South Carolina, I stopped him after the game and we talked and appreciated it. He said he's noticed all the things that the Crimson Chaos has been doing at the university, make Coleman Coliseum a more hostile environment. Appreciated us acting with class and stuff like that, and then we took a picture and all. But that's some really cool stuff that we get to do. I get to do, especially just meet other people and network with other coaches. That's really fun. It's one of the best parts of being president of the Crimson Chaos.
Yeah, that's really cool. You get to have those interactions. And for you, kind of what are the next steps like? Obviously, you want to get back to Tuscaloosa, and we hope we can have as normal of a school year as possible with some social distancing. Who knows what kind of precautions will be made for basketball games or really anything at this point. It's just too early to tell with a lot. But just kind of what do you hope the next step's going to look like for you and Crimson Chaos coming up?
For the Chaos, I know, immediate future, we're going to do a big renewal push, try and get students and members to renew their membership, $10 a piece for any students that are listening right now. Try to renew their membership. But immediate future, we're looking for new members of our executive board. We're looking for a new vice president, treasurer of the organization. We're going to try and fill that out, and we're going to be every year we're like this right here. We're like the guy on The Price is Right. I can't remember his name, but the one that goes up the mountain. That's what our organization is like year by year. And we just get more and more organized and more professional as time passes by. And we're going to try and reach the top of that cliff this year and try to coordinate and plan a lot more in advance and be a lot more creative and be a lot more in unison as an organization. And hopefully, this is the hope, we can get 15,000 people in Coleman Coliseum, because I don't think it'd be the same without a full crowd. So I hope things die down. I hope people are social distancing, wearing their masks and stuff like that, trying to flatten this curve and get to where we can all be in Coleman Coliseum come November 10th when Alabama plays Jacksonville State.
Certainly would be good. And we have a couple of Facebook questions before we get you out of here. The Chicago Gump, Griffin Smith asked, what were your thoughts of the baseball team as they got off to a hot start and you were in right field a lot while basketball wasn't happening? Were you having some fun at Sewell Thomas Stadium?
Oh, I love going to the Joe. Love going to the Joe for baseball. Baseball, I think my baseball, I was talking with my dad about this the other day. It's one of my, I think I miss it more than anything else right now, because in the summer there's not really anything else going on except baseball every single day. And this year, our baseball team with Coach Brad Bohannon, year 3 with Coach Brad Bohannon, was really, really taking off. And you really saw the potential of what the team could be. Started out, what was it, 16-0, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah, off to a 16-1 start before everything shut down. Yeah, incredible.
16-1 start. Just a really, really good baseball team that was hitting going into conference play. And then this stuff happened, and we were deprived of a good season of Alabama baseball. But the baseball team is in really good hands, and they've got really good trajectory going. And they're going to be really, really, really fun to watch these next coming years.
All right, another question comes from one of our good friends and one of my Crimson Tide Sports Network teammates, Brian Passink. He says, Fluff, have you been working on your poor free throw shooting during the offseason?
It was never poor. That's the thing. It was never poor. For those that don't know, Brian Passink likes to, every game, I'm in there early, me and other students are in there early, putting out newspapers and stuff for students. It's putting things in seats for students. And sometimes we'll get done early. And I'll go onto the court because nobody else is on there, and I'll shoot free throws because that's my entire range. I'm not a three-point shooter. I'm not anything else. 15 foot, that's my range. But I'll go shoot free throws, and Brian Passink every single time catches me on slow motion video missing or airballing the free throw. And I can make 10 in a row, but the 11th one I'll miss, and Brian Passink will catch it on video and put it out on social media for all the world to see. But no, I haven't been practicing my free throw shooting because it wasn't bad to begin with, and it's something you don't forget. It's how to shoot a free throw.
Kind of with my new job, social content manager for the network, I think we now need a free throw shooting contest before the game that we can live stream here on our Facebook page, you against the former Alabama letterman Brian Passink. I think we may have to arrange that, Fluff.
I'm down for it. 15 shots, break it up in 3 segments of 5 shots each, and then see who comes out on top. I'm down for that.
I like it. I think we can make that happen, maybe even on November 10th before the Jacksonville State game. Well, Luke, it's been a lot of fun to catch up. You do such a great job leading Alabama's student section for basketball, and you're involved in a lot of different ways on the UA campus. Just thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you back in Tuscaloosa and back at Coleman Coliseum very soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Roger. Thanks for having me on, and I can't wait to be back in Tuscaloosa.
Look forward to it. Roll Tide, buddy.
Roll Tide.
All right, that's Luke Ratliff. This has been Roger Hoover. Thanks for watching again at Quarantine Q&A presented by Alabama One Credit Union.